Hey, everybody. Good morning. Welcome back to the Potter Podcast. And this one is a topic today that I'm actually excited to talk about. I know that there's a lot of realtors out there that probably don't want to talk about this, but I think it's fair to have the conversation and to explain how this process works from a realtor standpoint, and that being the truth behind our commission and how it works and how we get paid and all those things. And so I think it's fair to have this conversation. So for you to know as a client and for someone that is going to use a realtor moving forward, how that kind of works, and also clear up maybe some misconceptions and things like that along the way as well. So without getting into more and more detail, let's just jump in and let's get into it. So first of all, the first thing that I want to share is, it's probably a question that we get, 50% of the time when we go on a listing appointment, and everybody's always asking, like, well, what's your commission? What are you going to pay out? And it always seems like, I'm straight up with them. I'm like, we're 6%. I don't lower that commission. I don't move on that commission. Like, we believe in the value that we provide. And ultimately, and at the end of the day, we need that to pay for not only ourselves, but the other things and the other people that are involved throughout the transaction, and still make a living out of it. And a lot of people don't understand how that process works and how that commission gets paid out. And so I want to kind of break that down just to kind of make it a little bit easier for people to understand how it works, and just so there's no like hidden things, secrets, whatever, when it comes to our commission there. And so let me break it down this way. First of all, let's just say in my example that we're charging 6% to list your house. Okay. First of all, the 6% does not go into our pockets after we sell your house. Okay. The first thing actually is the house needs to sell before we even get paid. Okay, so this is a unique profession where we don't get paid until transactions actually close. So keep that in mind when you're thinking about just all of the commission stuff and how that works. Is there's actually a lot of time and a lot of money that goes into being a realtor prior to even getting paid. So let me give you some examples. So obviously, if we're on the sell side, right, since we're talking about that, and we're talking about the 6%, typically what happens is that person or that realtor is going to go off and they're going to pay for marketing your house, right? So they're going to pay a professional photographer. Sometimes they'll pay for a stager. Other times, depending on the property, they're going to pay for drone footage and things like that. They're going to pay for marketing stuff on online, and also mailers through the neighborhood and things like that. So before even your house literally hits the market, a realtor has already spent hundreds, if not thousands of dollars to get prepared to list your house. Okay, so without anything even being done, right, the realtor is already in the negative. There's not many professions, as I think about it, where that happens, right? Like typically people pay their services up front, right, before they do the work. Like I can think of so many people, especially our vendors, where they're not going to come do any work until they actually get paid to do it, whether that's half up front and half at the end, or all of it up front, or however that works out. But in our profession, we don't get paid until that transaction actually closes. So in that situation, we're already putting money in to do all those things to get your house listed and ready to go. And then the house has to sell, right? So it's the time, the energy, and everything in between, whether that's the negotiation, whether that's working with the lender, the title company, working through snags of anything that comes up throughout the transaction, all that time and energy basically going without getting paid. So just kind of think about that. Keep that in mind as you're thinking about those things. And then finally, at the end, we get paid. Now, do we get the full 6%? Absolutely not. I wish we did. That would be awesome, but we don't. what typically happens is that agent is going to pay out the buyer's agent that brought the buyer to the property. Typically, it's going to be anywhere from 2.5% to 3%, somewhere in there. And so then that's 2.5% to 3% from the 6% that they're receiving on listing that house, right? And then they've got 3% left over, right? Well, some of that commission will go to their broker. So the broker takes some money out of that. There are filing fees, there's administration fees, there's listing and buying fees like within the brokerage that take place. And so all of those fees, add up as well over time. So that 3% now becomes more like 2.5%, 2.4%, whatever that is, that they're actually taking home. Then they've got to take 30% out from taxes to set aside to pay their taxes at the end of the year or quarterly. And so as you can see, this money quickly dwindles. And that's why, as an experienced, knowledgeable realtor, knowing how much things cost, knowing what your value is, it's amazing to me when I think of some of these other realtors that will go in and be like, well, I'll list it at 4% or I'll list it at 4.5%. And in my mind, I'm thinking, how in the world are you going to do that? Like, you still have to pay out that buyer's agent, and then you have to pay out your brokerage and all those fees, and then yourself. I'm like, you're maybe making $400, $500. You're not making thousands of dollars off of that transaction when you're lowering your commission that much. And so that makes me think about, like, well, how much value do you believe that you provide to clients if you think you're only worth $400 or $500? Like, that should be a red flag for somebody that's thinking about listing their house on someone that's willing to lower their commission. Because if they're willing to lower their commission that low, that says something about their belief in their self and their confidence and their profession and who they think they are and their value. And that should be important to you because, one, it's going to tell you how motivated they are to sell your property. Okay, right at the beginning of the conversation, at the end of the day, you want a realtor that is going to be looking out for your best interests and your needs, and you're going to want to know, what is this person going to do for me, right? That's the question, honestly, that I think every seller, if they don't ask it, is thinking inside their head and in their mind as far as, what is this realtor going to do for us to not only get our property listed, but to be looking out for our best interests as we go through this transaction. If that's not a question you're thinking about, you need to be thinking about that, and you need to ask that question as you're having that conversation with realtors that may potentially be listing your house. I think that's very important. We get so caught up in, what are you going to do to market my property, and what are you going to do all this other stuff? If I'm going to be honest with you, that's literally the easy part. Okay, as a realtor, anyone can list your house and throw it up on the MLS and put it online. Anyone can do that. Okay, it's the in-between stuff is where we get paid and where our value comes into play. And that's what you need to understand as a seller. Okay, it's not about what they're going to do to market your property. I hope they do everything they possibly can to market your property because that's part of their job, right? Every realtor should be doing that. And so don't get caught up into all of the different things that they're going to do to market your property or to put it up online. Like in today's world, if I'm being completely honest with you, like you can find any property that you want online as long as it's in the MLS or as long as it's posted by that person with just the click of a button, right? We all know where those places are. We all know what those websites are and where to go to find those things. Like it's pretty easy to go find something for sale online. That's just the reality of today's world, right? Like that's not just real estate, but like if a friend tells you about a book or a friend tells you about a car or a friend tells you about anything else that they've bought, what's the first thing that people do if they want it? They go online, right? They Google it. They go to the certain website. Maybe they go to Amazon. Maybe they go to all these places and they find it immediately, right? It's the same thing in our market is that all of these things, okay, are easy to find nowadays because of technology and because of what we're doing. Now, the question is to your realtor is as technology evolves in this industry, okay, what are you guys doing to pivot and change with those times and with those things as you're moving forward? And what do you offer outside of just the normal stuff that every other realtor is going to do, right? Like, talk to them and ask about their strategy on marketing your home and what that looks like and what they bring to the table and what their experience has been using some of these different tools and these other things, okay? Those are the types of questions you need to be asking. Like, is this person unique? Is this person different? Is this person motivated? Are they driven? Do they know the type of buyer that you are looking for your house? Like, all of those things. Maybe the question is, do you think you have buyers within your team or within your network or your pipeline that you think would be interested in purchasing our house? Like, all of those things, right, are questions that we need to be asking as we're in a conversation with someone who's potentially interested in listing your house, okay? I went on kind of a tangent there, but I feel like I need to go in depth on that a little bit to explain that process because it's all important, right? They are going to get paid at the end of the day if they sell your house, right? If they sell your house. And so at the end of the day, though, if they don't sell your house, guess who's not getting paid? The realtor, right? So every realtor should be motivated to sell a house. Unfortunately, that's not the case. And unfortunately, not every realtor does sell the houses that they have listed. But they should, and they should be having that conversation. That's why it's easy for me to go into a listing appointment with a seller, and it's easy for me to tell them exactly what I think we can list their property for and what I think we're going to get for it. I don't care about what they think it's worth. I don't care about if they're emotionally attached to the house or any of that stuff, because that doesn't matter at the end of the day when it's all about netting them the most money that they can net, right? Like, at the end of the day, it's my job to be upfront, to be transparent, to be real, to tell them the truth and tell them, this is what I think your house will sell for based on the updates that you've made and based on what's been selling in and around your property, right? That's my job, okay? Then it's their job to decide, well, how do we feel about that price, and do we trust this guy with that knowledge to list with him, and do we want to use him? So that's another question to be thinking about. So again, the value, right? Like, the value is very important, and so that, from a listing standpoint, is how a listing agent is going to get paid. Now let's talk about the buy side, right? Because there's other things that I don't think people think about when it comes to that, and it's a question, fair enough, that happens when you're going out and you're working with a realtor and they're helping you find a house. Here's the thing that I don't think a lot of people think about, especially in this market today. Okay, there's a lot of running around, there's a lot of writing up, there's a lot of searching and effort going into, if you have a good realtor, to try to find you the house that you're looking for, okay? And what they don't see and what they don't probably think about is all of the gas, all of the time spent, all of the time talking and writing up and all these different things throughout the process. And sometimes this process can be 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, right? So think about this from that perspective of, here is a guy or a girl that's out showing me houses all the time for the last 6 months and they haven't been paid a dime yet. Okay, again, it's another thing to think about because there's a lot of agents out there that literally are at the place where they're like, man, I really need to get something under contract so I can get paid, because all I've been doing is running around showing these houses and writing up contracts, and we haven't been able to get one. And at the end of the day, the truth is they still haven't been paid. So if they've been going 6 months, this is how you can understand why it's difficult, and why there's a statistic out there that I'm going to share with you here in a little bit. Why there's, I think, a lot of people getting out of the business or not being able to make it in this business because they're not experienced enough, or they're not knowledgeable enough, or they don't have a big enough pipeline to basically meet the needs enough to get things under contract to live off of. Okay, that's the reality of our job sometimes, is that there are a lot of agents in this industry, a lot. And there's a lot of people, and I've had this conversation with people all across the country, right? Especially, just one recently with one of my friends who's out in California, and he's like, everyone and their mom has a real estate license out here. Everyone thinks they can do it. Everyone thinks that, oh, the money is great and the money is good. And he's like, and then they get into it and they've been in it like 6 months and they haven't got a sale, and then they eventually let their license go because they realize that in order to be successful in this business, there's a grind that goes along with it. There's true grit and hard work. And there's a reason why. Here's the statistic that I'm going to drop is, the statistic out now, I believe, is after 79, I think it's like 79% that I read, 79% of agents don't last longer than 3 years in this industry. And out of those 79, or it could be even higher, a little bit lower from here, but out of that percentage, I think it was like 29% last year sold 0 homes. Let that set in for a minute. So almost 30%, a third of agents didn't do 1 deal last year that have their license. That's crazy to me, but that's the reality, right? Like, this is a true grind and true grit, and that's another thing that you can look at as you're interviewing agents and as you're talking to them. And as you're getting to know them and their business and their knowledge and their expertise and all those things, is look at their track record. Look and see how many homes they're selling, not only individually, but as a team, because that will tell you a lot about what they're doing and how successful they are, and if they're doing a good job in this current market working with buyers and sellers. Okay, that's the reality, and that's the truth. And so there are a lot of agents, and I'm just being honest with you, there are a lot of agents out there that shouldn't be in this industry. I can tell you from experience, and this is recently, I can tell you from experience that I have written up offers that the listing agent will call me, and I literally have to walk them through what it is that we offered and the contingencies that we put forth in our contract. And there's simple contingencies sometimes, like an escalation clause. Like, there was one that I lost out on, quite frankly, and this sucks, but I literally lost out on a deal with one of my clients. We wrote up the best offer. It was a cash offer. We did an escalation clause. We had some of these other contingencies waived, and she called me up and told me that we had lost the property. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Like, what'd you end up selling it for? And it was $30,000 less than what our escalation clause went up to. And I was like, I'm sorry, I'm confused. And not to get into any of these details, but the moral of the story was, she didn't understand the contract and what we had written up, and she ultimately misrepresented her sellers because she could have netted them more money based off of the understanding of what it was that we were offering through our contract. And I remember just going back and trying to think about, like, how am I going to present this to my client? One, because now I'm going to say, hey, we had the best offer, but we didn't get it because of the seller's agent didn't know or understand what our offer was, even though I explained it to her numerous times, but elected to go with a different offer and net less money. Like, that doesn't make any sense. But that was the reality. And that is the reality of what happens. So again, like, it's important to not get so caught up on what the commission is, right? But to be aware of, okay, who is this person that I'm hiring? What is their experience? What is their knowledge? How are they changing with the times in this industry? Because I'm telling you right now, especially from a social media standpoint, especially from a technology standpoint, and especially in this market, things are changing every single day, every day, okay? It's the first time in our industry that we've started to see this, that every single day things are changing. And so you have to adapt, and you have to change, and you have to talk about things, and you have to implement new things. That is the reality of our industry right now. And so that is the importance. You've heard me say this numerous times on podcasts before. Me and my wife have got to a point in our lives where we literally will tell each other this all the time, and we're like, you get what you pay for. Like, if I'm going to buy clothes, I'm going to buy new shoes, I'm going to buy whatever it is, like, if I pay less for something than I know that they're typically worth, like, I know they're not going to last very long. If I'm paying a little bit more for what those things are worth, I know that typically, looking back historically, they last a lot longer. it's the same thing in real estate that like, listen, it should be a red flag for you if someone is saying, especially if they're getting ready to list your house, they're like, hey, I'll list it for 4%. I'll list it for 4.5%. You know, like all those things. Like if somebody is telling you that, that should be a red flag. One, because they may be desperate because they just want to get a deal done and they want to get paid. Two, they're not motivated, because if they were motivated, they would realize what their value is and they would have a plan to get your house sold in the quickest amount of time and net you the most amount of money. But when they're making that little bit of money, they're not really going to be motivated, if I'm being completely honest with you. And you need to understand those things and see those red flags and say, hey, why doesn't this person believe in the value of what they are offering to us and themselves, to be quite frank? And so those are the things that you need to be aware of and think about. And because, again, this industry is difficult. This industry is tough. I'd be lying to you if I said it isn't. But let me tell you something that's really cool. I love what I do. And I have found something that I'm very passionate about and that I love doing. And let me tell you what I love most about my job. It has nothing to do about the money or the commission or any of that stuff. What I love most is educating and helping people understand how things work in this industry. I love educating people about getting their house ready to list and listing their home and walking them through that process and telling them all of the things to be ready for, to expect, all those types of things. Same thing on the buy side. I love walking people through that process, getting them pre-approved, helping them figure out their finances, helping them set themselves up to a better opportunity in the future and to start building equity into their lives, because I know that that will set them up financially down the road to do bigger and better things. And like you just heard me say in my last podcast, whether it was the last one or a couple ones ago, where I said, take more risks and dream bigger, right? I love the opportunity because real estate allows you, once you invest in it, to take more risk and to dream bigger and to actually build equity into your lives, to then use that equity to go invest in other things, whether that's people, your best friend's organization, maybe one of your family members has opened a restaurant or different things like that. Like I hear stories all the time that people end up coming back to me and saying, Ryan, thank you for educating us and informing us and walking us through the process and explaining it, right? Like that's the important thing and the thing that I love most about my job. So when I tell people, I literally tell people this all the time, that like my job doesn't feel like a job. Like I could literally be working 16, 18 hours a day, and I love what I do because I'm helping people. I'm helping them understand their purpose in buying or selling real estate or investing in real estate. And then I'm helping them understand how that can benefit them moving forward and what they can do with that as they continue to make updates, as they continue to grow in it. And then when they go to sell that house later in the future, the benefit that it can provide to them moving forward. And so the greatest joy in my job is when I get text messages or I get letters or I get cards or different things in the mail from my clients sharing with me how much they appreciated me throughout that process and continue to educate them and inform them throughout just this industry and this life on a daily, monthly, yearly basis. And again, I'm a realtor that I believe in the value of providing, value at the end of the day, even after the sale of a home. So it's just the different things that we do to keep you educated and informed and to know what your home is worth after you buy it and how that continues to grow and how that continues to appreciate in the future and how that can benefit you. Like that's the joy of my job and what I get to do. And sometimes I'm like, man, if people are driven by that and motivated by that, that's where you see a lot of these successful agents, because they don't care about the commission, right? They don't care about, like, they know it's going to come, right? They don't have to like be so desperate into going into these appointments or whatever, because they know the value that they provide. And they know that if somebody trusts them to walk them through that, like they have the knowledge and experience to get them through and to also help them become better in their understanding of the industry, and also in how they can set themselves up financially in the future. So with that being said, I wanted to clear the air a little bit and just be real with you and transparent as it relates to our commission. If you guys have any more questions as it relates to that kind of stuff, like hit me up on social media, text me, email me. I'd be more than happy to answer those questions for you. But yeah, that's a part of who I am. I love being real, transparent, open, not afraid to tackle any question or answer any question. And if I don't have the answer to that question, I'm more than happy to go find out what that answer is. So with that being said, guys, hey, thanks for watching. Thanks for following. Really appreciate you guys. I get text messages almost every day that somebody will text me and say, hey, I listened to your recent podcast. It was awesome. Thanks for the information. So again, if you know someone that you think would benefit from this information, feel free to share it. I don't care who you share it with. I don't care how many times you blast that out there. That's why I do these things, is to help better inform and educate everyone on real estate topics and things that we see day in and day out. So with that being said, guys, if you have something you want me to talk about, let me know. I'd be more than happy to do it. Hope you guys have a great Friday, and we'll talk to you soon.